A lot of people think there's a right age to take Social Security, but one decision here can impact many thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Welcome to the Next Chapter Retirement Podcast, where we discuss smart strategies for building and protecting wealth, health, and well being, helping retirees shape their next chapter into their best chapter. I'm your host, Mark Erickson, and each week we help you navigate the big decisions that shape your future, from health and financial planning to Medicare and lifestyle design and everything in between. Let's go ahead and dive in. Today, I'm joined by Bruce Potter, a certified financial planner and fiduciary with decades of experience helping people make thoughtful, well-informed financial decisions. Bruce and I have known each other professionally for many years, and I've always respected Bruce's education-first approach and commitment to doing what's best for his clients. Today, we're diving into one of the most common and most understood retirement decisions: when to elect Social Security benefits. Bruce, let's start simple. Why is Social Security timing, why is that decision such a big deal as part of someone's overall retirement plan?
Well, your retirement really depends on your sources of income that are going to replace your paycheck from your job. And most people have several sources, Social Security being kind of number one. It shouldn't be your biggest source, but it might be kind of your most stable. So when you take your Social Security, you're making a lifetime decision about the amounts that it'll pay for many, many years. Of course, you've got Social Security, and then most people hopefully have savings and investments that they'll tap throughout those retirement years. Some people might have a pension. I was a high school business and marketing teacher for many years, and I was in the Colorado's Public Employee Retirement Association, PARA. I'm in their system. So I've got a lot of clients that do have pensions. Pensions in the private industry, it's kind of few and far between anymore. And then, of course, there's also a possibility, another source of income, go back to work, whether it's part-time or hopefully not full-time once you've made that decision to retire. But let's go back to Social Security. For one, it's a government guaranteed monthly income for life, and it comes with an inflation protection. It comes with a cost of living adjustment every year based on inflation in the country. Now, of course, your savings and investments, that might be hopefully the biggest source of income, but it's also the one that probably fluctuates the most and has the most risk to it and variability of returns. If you have a pension, that's another pretty much for sure guaranteed. Yes, if it's with a state or city government, it would be a guarantee. If it's with a company, it would be somewhat of a guarantee, but that's not, I remember back in the day when United Airlines went under, closed their pension, and people that were receiving United Airlines pensions all of a sudden took a 40% hit to their pensions. So that can be a little risky too. And then part-time work, you never know how much that source of income will be. So bottom line, Social Security is your base, and starting it too soon can you reduce your benefits over your lifetime. It can also increase your taxes sooner than you want it to. It can leave your spouse with less money if you choose the wrong time to start. It can just be an inefficient use if you're not paying attention to the different options. Of course, taking your Social Security too late Can also lead you to use up too much of your savings and investments, possibly causing you to have to go back to work. We've seen that before with people for sure.
Yeah, Bruce, thank you so much. There's a lot to unpack there. I'm approaching age 65 myself, and YouTube has done a great job targeting me. And it's interesting because I've seen all sorts of videos that come up in my YouTube feed, some saying to elect Social Security at the traditional age, which I think the conventional wisdom used to be 67 was a kind of an ideal time. But some of these videos are saying that you should elect it sooner, and some are later.
Sure.
With all that conflicting advice out there, especially online, how should people think about this, and what might be missing from these blanket recommendations that people may see online?
Sure. Well, first of all, don't get your financial advice from YouTube. That's my number one.
Yeah.
People need advice specific to their life, to not generic, for one thing. So your decision depends on your financial situation, your health, your sources of income, your lifestyle. Are you married or not? Other monies that may be coming to you in the future, when you want to spend money in retirement, so many other things. So make it custom to your situation. Don't try to get your information from just the generic information floating on the internet.
So really, there is no magic age. There's no one size fits all.
No, there really isn't. I think the Social Security guidelines and rules and regs is, over 2,000 pages of information of all kinds of scenarios, all kinds of when you take it, when you don't. And so it really needs to be customized for sure.
So, Bruce, can you walk us through some of the basic trade-offs when talking about electing Social Security benefits early versus waiting, just
Sure.
kind of in plain English?
Yeah. So Social Security figures a term called your FRA, and that is your full retirement age. And it's based on when you were born. So nowadays, everything is, if somebody is retiring this year, they're probably in the range of born in 1960 and after, and the full retirement age is 67. You can take it as early as 62, but it is permanently penalized, permanently reduced if you do that. The reduction, if you take it at 62 versus 67, is about a 30% hit to your benefit, and that would be a permanent reduction. So delaying taking your benefits past your full retirement age, then they give you what's called delayed retirement credits. And each year you delay beyond 67, it increases by 8% each year. So, 67 to 70, you could figure an extra 24% bigger benefit. So that 8% a year that you get from delaying, whether it's starting at 62 or starting at 67 or anywhere in between, each year it goes up 8%, gets to be an 8% bigger benefit. Boy, that's a very rare guaranteed 8% return. I like to tell my clients I can probably do that for them in their portfolios, but there's no guarantees there. But there is with delaying your Social Security. It will get 8% higher every year you delay it past 62. Now, of course, it really depends on, do you need money for living expenses? So you get to be 62, and if you quit your job and you don't have enough in retirement and other funds to supplement, then maybe you have to start early. But just know that that's going to be a reduction. So that's kind of the big thing about it. But when you make that decision, you've got to look at your health, you got to look at your life expectancy, and then also your comfort level. I've had clients that say, yeah, I know I'm not making the best financial decision by taking it early, but I like the comfort of knowing that money's coming in and it's always going to be there. Financial planning is a combination of numbers and emotions. So people really need to look at both sides when they're making that decision. There's also something that comes into play if somebody is married, and I can go through that in a little bit, but what you do for your spouse by delaying or by taking early can have a big effect. If one of the spouses should die, what happens to the remaining spouse and what their benefit is like.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, let's tackle that in just a minute. You were mentioned something about longevity when thinking about that, and certainly I agree. Peace of mind is very important, and that's because you want people to be able to sleep at night. But when people are thinking about longevity, I would imagine they want to look at their their relative health to date. Might they also want to look at kind of their family history as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got to really know your family history. In fact, this has just come up recently with a client last week where he wants to take early, and we've explained the numbers to him, but he looks at his family, his uncles, his parents, especially on his dad's side. None of the boys lived beyond 55 or 60 because of a certain genetic disease that's in the family. So that definitely can have a big effect. And you say, yeah, I might as well take it now and use it in case I don't last that long.
Yeah, that makes good sense. Bruce, can you share an example? It could be real or hypothetical of someone who took benefits early versus someone who waited, and how that could play out over time.
Yeah, let's take a look. What I could do is talk about the numbers. The average Social Security benefit being paid out now for somebody at full retirement age of 67 is about just a little over $2,000 a month, which is $24,000 a year. And taking that early drops that 24,000. If they take it at 62 instead of 67, they're taking just under 17,000. So you look at 17,000 a year versus a little over 24,000 a year. That's a big impact right there. Waiting till 70 to start it, that 24,000 becomes over 30,000. So right there, the numbers are pretty stark. Um, the real thing that we take a look at for sure is somebody that says, I want to delay, is all right. If you retire at 62, then you've got, a good 5 years that you want to dip into your investments to cover that missing income for 5 years. And some portfolios can handle that, some can't. I think a real key is that you have to design that portfolio for the amount of withdrawals. It may be taking more risk by putting more money in stocks or something like that. Ran into a client not long ago. We just started with them, and they took it early, and but their 401k from work was still invested in a very aggressive way that had been for many, many years. The typical person that has a 401k puts money in, doesn't think a lot about it and hope that it's going to turn out. Yeah, it builds over the years, but once they got to retirement, we had a dip in the market, and they realized, oh, maybe I was way too invested in stocks in my 401k. That portfolio should have been adjusted before that little downturn came. But it's tough. You've got to look at it and say, what do I need? The people who take it early, they're kind of locked in, and they're going to have to use more of their retirement funds. I have had people over the years that said, yeah, I took it early, and at 65, instead of retiring at 65, they started a job at 65. So you've really got to think through it, plan it out. But the difference in numbers are very stark there, for sure.
Bruce, you'd mentioned that the decision can change for married couples versus single individuals. Do you want to jump into that now?
Yeah, sure. So if you're single, then it's down to, it's pretty easy decision, I think. Take it early if you need it. If you've got investments to cover you, you could delay. There's not very many people that delay to 70 that are single. Usually they might wait till their full retirement age. But it's really about, the cash flow you need during that retirement. But married couples, there's two things that come into play. Two features of Social Security. There's one called a spousal benefit, and there's one called the survivor benefit. And so when you've got two couples that are eligible for Social Security, you've got to look at their ages, you've got to look at the amount of their benefits that they're going to be getting, and do some real planning out on that one. A spousal benefit, say, for example, we have a couple who one spouse didn't work very much. They might have stayed at home, helped raise the kids, that type of thing, worked out of the house. They may be lower earning or non-working. Well, they could get half of the higher earning spouse's benefit at the working spouse's full retirement age. So that could be a real nice benefit for the spouse. Now, when we look at survivor benefit, that's even a bigger deal. So a survivor benefit, what would happen if one spouse passes? The remaining spouse would, if they had a lower benefit, their benefit would go up to be equal to the survivor spouse's benefit. If you wait to start that benefit, it gets bigger so that the remaining spouse would have a much bigger benefit for the rest of their life. So you've got to just run the numbers, but it becomes very big piece of the elder years there is to make sure that survivor has the highest benefit possible.
And that makes good sense. So in my case, my spouse did stay home and help raise the family and kind of quit working early, if you would. So basically, if at age 67, if we waited till full retirement and I decided to start getting Social Security, then I would get the full benefit, and then my spouse would be able to get half of my benefit. And then, Bruce, if I'm understanding correctly, if I predecease my spouse, then she would start receiving, instead of half of my benefit, she would start receiving the full benefit that I
Right.
was receiving. Is that correct?
Yes. Now, the one caveat is that if your spouse has any benefit at all, maybe from younger days, high school, college earnings, and
Sure.
things like that, they wouldn't receive their own benefit plus your full benefit. It would be they would receive their benefit and then an amount considered a survivor benefit, bringing the total up to what yours was at the time you died.
I see. Thank you. And one other scenario, what about for a couple that's divorced? Is that still kind of similar to what it would have been had they remained married, or how
Well,
would that work?
yes. If you are divorced and you've been married 10 years before that divorce, then the spouse, as long as they stay unmarried, they could qualify for that survivor benefit or that spousal benefit. So, we've run into people over the years that were married a couple of times. They stay single after that, and they're getting a couple of benefits from previous former spouses.
Wow. Well, that's a lot of different options there.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where Congress is kind of looking at that and say we could save on Social Security expenses if we kind of cut that out.
Yeah. So that may not be there in the future. Who
Yeah, that
knows?
could be.
So, Bruce, what should people know if they plan to keep working while they're taking Social Security? Any gotchas or concerns there?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the key is that if you start taking your Social Security and you're still working, there's limits to how much you can make without Social Security being reduced. So it's all based on FRA, your full retirement age. So if it's 67 and you take your benefits at 65, you can only earn up to, this year it's going to be $24,480. If you earn more than that, then your Social Security is reduced. For every $2 over that limit, it's reduced by $1. So that can be a little surprise for people for sure. Now, they will get that money back after they reach full retirement age. Social Security puts it back into the calculations, and they will eventually get that money back. But it is a current penalty. I've heard of people saying, yeah, I started my Social Security and all of a sudden it got cut because they're still working. There's one other stipulation in there. If you if you take Social Security, and then the year you reach your full retirement age, the limit is higher. So that year you could work and make up to 65,160 without a penalty. But it will be penalized if you during that year if you make more than that. So just, little things in Social Security, all kinds of little caveats that you have to worry about.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And Bruce, I think a lot of people may not realize that their Social Security benefits are taxable.
Absolutely. Yeah. In 2026, and if you are single and make over $25,000 all together income, your Social Security will be taxed at 50% of your Social Security will be taxed. Married filing jointly, the limit is $32,000. So once you get over $32,000 as a married couple, your Social Security starts getting taxed. For higher incomes, if you're above $34,000 in total income, 85% of your Social Security gets taxed. Married couples, it's $44,000. So anything above $44,000, you throw your Social Security into your tax return, and 85% of it gets taxed. So you've got to watch out for that for sure. I know there's part of the tax bill that passed last year. They kind of said that your Social Security is not taxed, but it is. The way they got around that is by giving a tax deduction for those 65 and older that reduces some of that taxes. But you're still being taxed on Social Security.
Wow. Good information. Thank you. Bruce, for someone approaching retirement, how important is it to look at Social Security as part of a broader financial plan? And what value does working with a financial planner who's a fiduciary bring?
Well, first of all, a fiduciary financial planner is required by law to act in the best interest of the client, regardless of what it does for them. And there are many financial advisors who are not required by law, but still are fiduciaries. So whatever you do, make sure you find a financial planner that's a fiduciary. Ask them, are they a fiduciary? Have them explain how that works for them. And if they are a fiduciary, then they're going to be looking at a holistic financial plan for you. They're going to look at many different parts. They're going to look at Social Security, yes, but they're going to look at your lifestyle. They're going to look at family size. They're going to look at your goals. They're going to look at your taxes. They're going to look at your estate planning. They're going to look at your insurance, your monthly cash flow, your debt management. They're going to look at the big picture because changes in one area may change the other areas. So they've all got to look at things holistically, figure out what's the best time to start your Social Security based on all those factors we've talked about: health, family size, incomes, investments, other sources of income. But make sure they're a fiduciary. They're going to act in your best interest. Here's an example. When somebody comes to us and they say, okay, should I start Social Security early? Of course, we look at all the numbers and give our recommendations. But there may be financial planners out there that aren't fiduciaries, and they might look at it and they say, oh, yeah, you should take it early because they may be earning money off the investments and they want those investments to keep growing without being touched. And starting early might not be the best for that client. So those are the kind of things you've got to watch out for when you talk with a financial advisor.
Yeah, so kind of the big difference is a fiduciary is looking out for the client's best interests. There's somebody who's not a fiduciary might be looking out a little bit more for their own best interests, what they
Yes,
get commissioned on or what have you.
unfortunately, that's true in this industry. Yes.
Yeah. So, Bruce, what are some of the big mistakes that you sometimes see people make when they're deciding on when to take Social Security?
Yeah, not considering all the options. A lot of people just look at, okay, geez, here's my current situation. I need more money. I want to take it. But you've also got to look many, many years down the road. Um, health, usually people spend more money early in retirement, but that kind of slows down after a while. But then other things start costing more. The main example is health insurance, health care, possibly even long-term care. So big mistake thinking too much about today and not thinking enough about 10, 15, 20, 25, even 30 years later, what your cash flow is going to look like, what your expenses are going to look like. I know that's hard to project that far in the future, but you've got to just kind of go by kind of other people that are older than you are, and basically everybody's probably going to face higher health insurance, health care costs, and then depending on their lifestyle, their health conditions, etc. If you need the long-term care insurance, you want the biggest amount of money still around to help you pay for that.
Right. And I know in my practice, when I talk with clients about Medicare, I always do encourage them to not just think about today, but to think about themselves 10 years older, 20 years older, et cetera. And I also remind them that the reality is in life that our health tends to not improve as we get older. So that's something
Right.
that certainly people need to be aware of. And anyways, Bruce, anything else you want to bring up before we wrap things up here?
No, I think that's it. I mean, there's just, there's so much to look at. It's a very tough decision. Once that decision is made, you do have, like if you decide to take it early, the IRS gives you kind of a 1 year little cushion there. If you take it early and you decided you made a mistake, you can pay back to the IRS what your benefit has been and then delay starting again. But you only have 1 year to make that decision to stop it and restart later. But it is a really huge decision, and you've got to look at all your sources of income, what's going to happen to those sources down the road. Are they going to be there? What are they going to produce? That type of thing. So it really pays to run the numbers for sure.
Yeah, and that's where the planning really comes in, to where somebody hopefully never makes that mistake and has to pay that back.
Yes, for sure.
And Bruce, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you again for joining us, Bruce Potter, and sharing your insights on Social Security and financial planning. And before we wrap up, Bruce, can you let our listeners know where they can find you and learn more about your company's services?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I own one of the financial advisor teams that's part of Heirloom Wealth Management. We're located in Denver. Our offices are down in the tech center. I happen to have my office in Westminster. But if you go to on the web, go to heirloomwm.com, you'll see our website. On our website, under the About tab, is Meet Our Teams, and you'll see the Potter team in there. It's myself, my son, who happens to be a certified financial planner. He followed me into the business. So it's been a joy working with him. We've also hired another advisor, Luke. And so we're a team of three, but we have the Heirloom power behind us. A large firm lets us operate independently and customize for every client, but we also have the resources of a great big team.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Bruce. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning into the Next Chapter Retirement Podcast. And if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe and share it with anyone who might be planning their next chapter. We'll be back soon with more conversations to make your next chapter in life your best chapter. And for help navigating Medicare, you can find helpful resources and connect with our team at nextchapterpod.com. Until next time, plan wisely and live fully. Thank you. Thank you, Bruce.